welcome back to PeopleOps Playbook. I'm Vera, your host, and I'm super excited to kicking a new series where we'll be diving into automation in HR. If you're anything like me, you probably found yourself juggling a million little things like onboarding, engagement, performance stuff with managers, trying to create a great culture without losing your mind, and much more. So, this series is for all people leaders who want to make their work more scalable, less stressful, and more fun with the use of automation and AI tools. So, joining me today is someone who's been leading the way in community building and engagement, Martin Hauck, the founder of the People Group. So, if you haven't heard of this community yet, it's an incredible community that started as a simple Slack group and now grown to 5,000 people pros. So, Martin, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. To kick things off, would love for you to introduce yourself in 1 or 2 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Vara. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Martin Hauck. I run the People Group. It's a community of over 5,000 members across North America. We've got members from international places as well. We've got folks from Africa, Europe, South America. But for the most part, it's North America, Canadian. I'm out of Toronto. And we've got a lot of folks in the US as well. And yeah, I've been building the community for 8 years. The first 6 years was sort of off the side of my desk, where I spent 15 years in talent acquisition. And the last 2 years, I've been doing it full time alongside my business partner and some incredible ambassadors from the community.
Nice, that's awesome. Since it's been 8 years, that's you must really like community building.
I love it. Yeah. I'm doing the right thing finally.
I agree. And so, my first question is when you initially started building this community, what are some challenges that you faced? You felt like, "Oh, I need some kind of automation, otherwise, it would be very difficult to manage or even scale."
Um, it wasn't right away.
Hmm.
And I read a book by Alexis Ohanian many years ago, and I feel like he's the one, or maybe he talked about it. Maybe it was Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, but they said do things that don't scale, which is like the opposite of automation. Um, and someone like myself, like as a recruiter, you get a ton of messages from candidates, and you're sending a ton of messages. The way I always wanted to stand out was by sending like a message from me, not from like some system that was automated that isn't personalized or anything like that. So it took me a while before I kind of came around to automating things and feeling comfortable with automating things for the community. And even in the recruitment practice, when I was recruiting for startups in Canada, um, kind of not really comfortable with sort of like the automated marketing nurture campaigns, where it's like you send an email to a candidate, and if they don't reply in a few days, send them another one and send them another one, and it's all the same script. I always felt like doing that manually, even though that was the hard way,
Hmm.
was better. But I've changed my mind over time, and I think the part that feels like the right thing to do is like don't automate everything. And so that's one thing that I kind of stick by, obviously. But there are definitely things now. And when I started when I started automating things for the people group using AI and automation and other tools like that, it was out of necessity, and I was trying to automate the things that didn't necessarily need a human touch, or things that could actually make it feel like there is a human touch and it's thoughtful, or it creates an opportunity to trigger like a human interaction that feels authentic and genuine.
Wow. Can you share a couple of examples of those things? This is what I was very curious about. Like, when everybody says automation in HR, I always get a question in my mind: is it gonna lose the human touch? Are we gonna
Yeah.
lose that? So I'm really glad you touched on that. So if you can share a little practical examples of what things that you have automated that did not need that actual human touch, but at the same time felt like it was more natural.
Yeah. Um, I think the thing that makes the most sense, like if you're looking for things to automate, it's sort of the things that keep coming up. Like what are like anytime you create like a frequently asked questions area for your website or for your company, if you have those questions you're automating it. Like it's the lowest form of automation because it's just like, here, go to this website, here's all the answers to the questions we know you're going to have because we've seen them come in 100 times.
Mhm.
So I think, when for the community, on the community side, one of the we have an application process. So if you're an HR recruitment operations professional and you're not a member of the community, the first thing you have to do is apply to join the community. I go through every application myself personally. It's kind of like my morning ritual. I'll have a coffee and I'll go through all the people that applied recently. And like in the early days, it was just easy. Like I just, connect with them on LinkedIn manually and send them a message manually. And then from there, I would invite them into the Slack group, and then I would invite them into the Circle platform that we have that holds all our resources. And so the first thing that I automated, and it wasn't through like a fancy complex tool like Zapier, but I'm biggest fanboy of Zapier nowadays, but was using a program called TextExpander. And it's pretty straightforward. It's basically lets you program pre-scripted templates anywhere on your computer. So like if you use the Google templates on Gmail, for example, it's a version of that, but it works anywhere on your computer. So what I was finding was that I wanted to connect with every person that wanted to join the people group regardless. I wanted to connect with them on LinkedIn. That was just a personal thing I started doing, and sort of like an RRSP, it's like paid off dividends. Like it's boring, it takes time, it's not exciting, but after 5, 6, 8 years, you've got this wealth of connections on LinkedIn, and now that's a big part of what makes things a lot easier for us in terms of like distributing information about the community and keeping people updated across different channels. So the first thing that I automated was just the message that I sent people when I wanted to connect with them. So
Mhm.
instead of typing out my connection, it was like, hey, and I'd have a placeholder. So it lets you customize it a little bit, but you don't have to like go to a spreadsheet, or you don't have to go to a document and select text and copy paste it. All I needed to do was type a keyword. So the nice thing about TextExpander is it lets you type like a keyword. So mine is like TPPGCON, like,
Mhm.
which is short for connect. So anytime I type TPPGCON, it pops up, and then all I need to do is type the person's name because I'm looking at their profile, and I connect with them. I personalize the message. So that part's important to me. I'm not just like arbitrarily connecting with them. I'm saying like, hey, thanks for your patience. I just want to let you know that your invitation to the people group should be in your inbox. Go check it. So it's like 2 points of connection with new members right off the get-go. And it's like the manual part is like I'm looking at their profile, but I need to manually do that in order to determine like, is this person actually going to add value to joining the community? If they do, are they an internal recruiter? Are they an internal operations person? Or the internal HR, basically?
That's pretty cool. I think this tool, recruiters can also use to connect with valuable candidates, right? Is it?
This I stole this from my recruiting days. Like I just took the same thing that I was doing as a recruiter. I would come up with scripts, right? So I had a script for anytime I was reaching out to a candidate that just recently changed jobs. So I called it the bad timing script, basically. And so I think I would just say, I would type out the word bad time in the personalized message area, and it would say, hey, and then insert name here, my name's Martin. Looks like you just moved from, and then I would personalize it. So like company A to company B. And, you can do that with more complicated and complex automations now, but it's still a manual thing I was doing at the time. And I would say like, hey, just saw that you recently moved from, uh, company X to company Y. And then I would put in the number of months because I was visually like taking that in. It shows up on their LinkedIn profile. And the reason that was important to me is because there's like this sourcing recruitment guru out of the States. His name's Shally. And I attended one of his talks, and he was like, the conversion rate on a message that only has like 1 point of personalization versus the conversion rate of a message that has anywhere from 6 to 7 points of personalization are like night and day. So I always tried to make it filled with as many personalizations as possible. This isn't my tip. I stole it from Shally. He's going to be on my podcast in a couple weeks. And so I would basically use that as a recruiter to reach out to candidates that recently made a change. But the thing is, like, their profile is amazing. I wish I could hire them, but I don't want to make any assumptions either. Maybe they don't like the company they just joined. Maybe they're no longer at the company that looks like they just joined. Maybe they're at two different companies. Whatever the case might be, I don't like making assumptions. If a profile is good, I still want to reach out. And so normally you wouldn't do that if you're a recruiter because it takes time and effort. But when you automated it, just gave me the ability to reach out to more candidates in an automated way that still felt relatively personalized.
I agree. And what are the current top automations are you using to help?
Things have gotten a little bit more complex than TextExpander for me. And I use it more in terms of community building and like operating a digital community, as well as we have meetups on a regular basis. But on the digital side of the community experience, we have a paid membership and we have a free membership. And so there's two different experiences. So somebody might apply to join the community and they're saying, hey, I want to try out the free community first. That's fine. And others might say, you know what, I've heard such great things about the community. I'm just going to go dive right into the paid version of the community. So those are two different member journeys that they go through. And so I use Zapier primarily to execute those journeys. So it's sort of like, what is, once a person has been accepted, I guess the other automation that happens before that is we use Typeform. So Typeform, Zapier, Google Sheets, and Slack and Circle are sort of like my community building automation stack, right? Some of those, like Zapier, is essentially that's the holy grail of automation tools, obviously. But like Circle is a community building platform, but that has automations baked within it, and it also integrates with other automation tools. So it's nice that there's like this ecosystem that I can play around with. But if I think about the member journey from like somebody's like, oh, I'd like to join this community, I've heard good things, da 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 da, it starts with their application form. So when you click on apply on our website, it takes you straight to Typeform. And I think the difference between Google Forms and Typeform is design and aesthetic and options in terms of integrations. So once somebody completes the form, we have the ability to add it to a spreadsheet, and that's like your standard basic automation that you may like, okay, cool, somebody filled out a form and it goes to a spreadsheet, like fantastic. That's like Mickey Mouse, automation 101. The cool part about Typeform is that it allows you to create different links so that if someone applies to, say, the free version of our community or the paid version of our community, within the same form, it kicks off, it gives us the ability to kick off two different experiences for that individual. So now people sit in this spreadsheet, or their profiles and everything they filled out in the application form becomes is up for review. Once I've reviewed it, I'm clicking on a drop down tab, and we've got about 6 or 7 different options from this drop down tab. So it's just an empty cell. and it allows us to choose what their experience is going to be like next, right? So if somebody's, not in HR, recruitment, or operations, we send them a message saying, okay, thanks for applying, this is what the community is for. If we got something wrong, let us know. But that's sort of the experience, and so a message will go to that person because we've got their email from the application form, and we'll let them know automatically. Previously I didn't do any of that because it was just not scalable. I didn't have the capacity. And so even before I started using Typeform and Zapier, I think it was just like a Google Sheet, and it was, I think it was a Google Form first, and we switched to Typeform. Um, even then, it was just like I would I wouldn't even email people to let them know that they had joined the community. They would just get an invitation from Slack, because the easiest thing for me to do was copy and paste their invitation to Slack into Slack and send the invite through there.
Mhm.
So now we have all these additional touch points that actually help convert people that have applied to the community.
I agree. That's huge. Like every touch point. Honestly, when I was joining community as well, I don't remember when I applied for it, and I forgot about it. And because of your text on LinkedIn, because of your personalized email, it made me like, oh my god, this is something special.
It's
I
legit.
Yeah, it's so special. I want to join this.
Yeah.
Right? That's awesome. So far I want to ask this question. You mentioned Zapier and Circle as the two platforms you use to make automations, right?
Mm.
What automations would you choose for Zapier versus Circle?
Well, I use both. So there's an automation from Circle that triggers when somebody pays for their, so when we approve someone, so if somebody becomes a paid member of the people group, for example, they get the message from me, right? I send them a message saying, hey, your application to the community has been approved. If it's a paid member, the message is different in the sense that it's like, here's the link to pay for your membership, and once that link to the membership is paid for, Circle will send a notification to us. Once we get that notification, that creates an automation to say, do the necessary steps to allow this person, like set them up with the account, right? And then the account begins on the Circle side of things. So there's two sort of like, and at the same time it sends like starts an email chain from them. It's like, hey, thanks, we got your payment, your account is ready, you should be getting, and it's basically instructions on how to join the community and how to make the most of it. And then it waits, which is like a magical aspect of automation, is like you can wait for certain things to happen. And so, for example, if somebody, we have it so that when somebody joins and they're from a specific city, and we have a channel within the Slack group that is specific to the city that's listed in their profile, AI will scrape like the location that they've typed, because sometimes people put like the short form, like if you're in Toronto, a lot of people call it GTA or something like that.
Mhm.
We get Zapier to scrape that to be like, identify the most likely proper name of the city, so that another automation triggers and puts that person into the right geographic channel once they've joined the Slack. So I used to manually add people to, if you're coming from Vancouver or something like that, we have a Vancouver channel with, 400 members in it that are talking every day and connect every day. But previously I wasn't helping organize people within the digital side of the community. It was just like a free for all, and everybody was all in the same channel kind of deal, right? So that's another one of the ways that like the Circle aspect and the Zapier aspect work nicely together.
I'm super excited to go explore all of them. And we'll also be linking down below in the description, along with Martin's LinkedIn, and also the link for the People community group to join. Thanks again, Martin, for joining me.